such as the notorious North Face. These padded jackets.
Look at him flexing with his North Face. Is your boo? This is your boo? Okay.
Yeah, I do like watching them.
Yeah, DKDKTV is.
Yeah.
Shout out to them.
Okay.
What I was gonna say is, so Spinebreaker is a song with a hugely great meaning.
Okay.
But they made the music video for it, and it's very silly. So just like with Bepse, how they showed, like, when he was giving the explanation, it also showed parts of the dance practice. This will show parts of the music video.
Okay.
BTS, like, directed and did the whole music video himself. So, like, Jin was, like, the costumer.
Oh,
it's really silly.
Daddy Jin.
It's super silly. And then after this, we'll watch a live of this. Because it's a really fun song. It's, like, one of those songs where it has a deep meaning, but it's also, it's kind of like Bepse. Like, it's very fun.
Okay.
So we'll do both.
That is Daddy Jin. I'm going to let you know right now. I love Jin's dad jokes. I love
She
them.
really does, guys.
I do. And
She's such a fan of Jin's dad jokes.
Oh, and I laugh hard at them. They're funny. They're funny to me.
I'm glad.
Yeah, that's my Jin moment. This hat.
They're so silly. When I tell you it's silly, it's so silly.
Spinebreaker. What a strong title name. For new armies or casual listeners that don't look into the lyrics that much, the title might be a little misleading or misunderstood in the way of maybe...
This is David, not Danny.
No, I love David. That's
you like David?
Oh. Anybody could actually think like that. But still, without knowing the Korean cultural references behind the story, this song is a little bit hard for foreigners to fully comprehend.
Okay.
But before we go on to the explanation itself, let's give a short shout out to our sponsor. 우선 저희 스페인 시리즈를 사랑해주시는 많은 구독자분들께 감사하다는 말씀을 먼저 드리면서 저희 영상을 보시면서 좋아하는 아이돌 그룹을 봄과 동시에 영어 공부까지 된다라는 긍정적인 효과를
He's so cute. I know. He's the one that born and raised in Canada, right? Lived in Canada for a while.
Did he?
They were talking about.
I don't know. I don't think I knew that.
Okay.
He's the more innocent one.
They did a live recently, and so I watched it live. And
Okay. Danny is a little more jaded.
Oh, I know.
Yeah,
Oh, I know. He's the cynical one.
Yeah.
I've only seen him once in Blue, Legend of Lucy. I like him, the actor.
Extremely expensive shoes, padding jackets, and watches. These are all everyday objects that students use in their daily lives. Education is going up the mountain, students are also going up the mountain. Going up the mountain is a Korean idiom called 사공이 많으면 배가 산으로 간다, which is translated into too many cooks spoil the broth. So basically, BTS is trying to criticize the students alongside with the Korean education system that both parties are going in the wrong direction. These lines express what school looks like these days in a nutshell. Rich students and poor students can be identified by whether they have expensive clothes or not. For students who cannot afford these expensive clothes, they'll do whatever they can to get their hands on these particular brands or clothes.
Yep.
And I think that speaks to, like, I know that there is an issue with uniform policies in school districts now because of the fact that they're trying to kind of avoid the whole comparing based off of, you know, who has these sneaker brands and whatnot. And when we were in Rwanda, the students pretty much, the uniform is ridiculous, where everybody has to have the same cut, including the girls. Unless you go
haircut and everything, right?
Yeah, unless you go to a private school. If you go to a private school, you can have your hair braided and pulled up into a bun. If you can't get your hair braided, then of course it has to be cut. And so we were kind of speaking about that as Americans, from an American point of view. You know, they're not given creative licenses to go and do them. And I said, but here's the thing, what winds up happening is that they're no longer focused on school. They're focused on, how do I make sure that I look a certain way so that I'm presentable enough where people don't make fun of me?
Yeah, it's hard.
It is. And I said, I get, you know, what you're saying, but I said, you know, as a teacher who's been in a classroom where a child doesn't want to come into the classroom because her hair is not done, it breaks my heart. Like, you know, because children are mean. They sometimes are, well, they are mean. And they say things because this is what's being said in the house. So this is what they're getting. And so it's hard. It's just really
It's a hard one for me because I personally am not for uniforms in general. But, like, because I also think that I think it takes away some of what you're talking about. Like it does take away the obvious. When I worked in Hawaiian schools, like kids didn't have to wear uniforms at all,
right.
And there were kids that obviously wore same clothes either multiple days in a row or like multiple times a week. You know what I mean? But what I also saw when kids didn't have to worry about wearing a uniform, because the other like stress that sometimes happens with uniforms is keeping them clean and keeping like. And then if you get yours dirty and then you can't buy a new one and then you're in trouble all the time at school, like there was also none of that.
Right.
So there was no stress with my students of like, am I going to be in trouble because my uniform shirt's not clean or my hair is not however it's supposed to be, right? Like, so I think it's like, for me, it's very much like the culture of the place the school's in has to be considered. It's very much like, as a parent, hoping that there's choice of like, whether it's public, private, however, like hoping there's some option for like whatever's best for your kid. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, because it's a really tricky. It's a very thin line, tricky question.
Elementary to 12, I was in uniform, and
I was always in uniform.
When I got to college and I actually had to start picking out clothes to go to school in, it was stressful. Legit, it was stressful.
That wasn't that stressful for me.
It was for me.
Yeah.
I know that when you go to
this is what I mean. Everybody's different,
right?
Like,
so
what was more stressful for me was uniforms, honestly.
Yeah,
and I'll say it after. Go ahead.
Yeah, it wasn't for me, and I know that attending an HBCU, it was a thing of, what are you wearing? And it wasn't even like if you have to have the latest brand, but did you look put together? Yeah. And so that was stressful. Yeah. The school that I went to, we had this. It was the center of our school, and it was called the Bridge. It was the Bridge, and it was just like, all right, if I have classes at 8:00 in the morning, I can wear sweats, I'm good. But if I had a class that was at 12:00 and I had to walk across the bridge, I had to make sure it was tight. It was just. Yeah,
no, I had that experience in college. Like, I definitely had to think about what I wore more. It just didn't stress. I didn't feel the stress of that. I felt a lot of stress in middle school and high school because I was very much a kid that, like, compared to my parents we're in no way poor. I want to make that clear. But compared to the kids I was going to school with, we had significantly less money than a lot of the other families of people I went to school with. So I was very much the kid who it was noticeable that I didn't have as many uniform options to put on. Like, because there were like sweaters you could buy and, different shirts you could wear and things like that. Or like it was noticeable that my earrings weren't as high end or like my shoes weren't as high end. Like, the little places they allowed us to be a little bit different. It was a struggle for me.
Right.
So, like, I literally got a paper route so that I could buy my own sneakers so that like I had the sneakers that everyone else was wearing, and it was always me just trying to fit into what everyone else was wearing while also being on a budget. You know what I mean?
Understandable.
And so it was like and the same thing happened in high school. In high school, it was like we had to wear white button-up collared shirts, and you could wear like the school ones, or you could buy your own cheaper. And so I would like literally buy like one of the school ones, and then I'd wear the other ones, but I'd have to like find ways to make them look not cheap, and then the cheap ones shrink, cheap quality clothes. So then I would always be on this endless loop. I was very stressed out in high school.
So
about
was it like a polo?
Looking right. No, it wasn't a polo. It was a button up, like dress shirt.
You just said button up.
Yeah, button up collar dress shirt. It had to be white. And like I said, there were options. Like you could buy sweaters to go over them. You could buy sweater vests to go over them. You could wear a skirt. You could wear khaki pants or whatever pants, blue pants. Uniforms were stressful for me. Like, and very.
My mom made the decision. I grew up in Newark, New Jersey. And so like it was either private school or the local schools. And my mom didn't want us to go to local schools. She was from Florida. And she was like, I'm not liking the atmosphere. We live in an area where I don't feel as though it's safe for you. And so she decided when I was going into high school that I was going to go to an all-girls school. I thought that was the dumbest thing ever, and I was mad. But now that it's over, it was the best experience for me because we literally, all of that stuff that you're talking about,
not an issue. But like I do remember by my senior year, I was much more comfortable, right? Like by my senior year, it was like I had a group of friends. It was like people knew who I was. I had learned who I was and kind of pushed through who I was. So it was like I was more confident, and so I just like didn't care as much anymore.
Right.
But there were definitely some years where that was like
I think if I would have went
constant worry.
If I would have went to a co-ed school, I probably would have. But even with the uniform things in Newark, like
But it wasn't the boys that made me worry.
It was the girls. I know I'm talking about, but I went to an all-girls school. Like, as long as you came in there, you didn't stink. You were good. You didn't stink and your hair was done. You were fine. And your hair didn't even have to be like this beautiful motif of like, it was just your hair done. But for us, because of the fact that we were attending private school, it was more so of a, be careful when you take the bus to go home because public school kids will make fun of you.
Yeah.
So like
I also lived through that. Yeah.
For us, like, you know, it wasn't a biggie. So like I've never, like, even when my son went to middle school, he went from elementary, wear your own clothes, and when he went to middle school and he had a uniform, and it was literally just wear some khakis, and then like he had to pick a polo shirt, and it could be any color, but it had to have the name of the school. He said that he really, like, that was easy for him. But then when he got to high school and, like, went back to not being in uniform, he was like, what in the world? Like, now I got to go find clothes. And I was like, so, okay.
Yeah, that's why it's
I know.
a thing that goes both ways. And for me, like, the bullying reasoning, I'm like, cool, but then, like, you also have to be on the bullying if you do have the uniforms. Like, the kids bullying doesn't go away. It does offset some of the bullying, but kids bullying isn't going away because of
But
uniforms.
if you think about it, in most Asian schools, they have to wear a uniform.
Yeah.
They have to. And so, like, how else do you floss? So, like, the
puffy jackets and the watches and the...
Right, and so it's just like...
That's how my school was. That's what I identify with that.
But I like the Rwandan way. It's across the board.
So, like, they didn't let them wear earrings or anything?
No.
Yeah.
It was, like, across the board. Look,
that's a true uniform. It's uniform.
You got the shoes, you got the top, you got the hair. Like, we're cutting everything out. And it came across to my American, partner
sense of
that was
freedom
there. They were like, this is too drastic. And I'm sitting there like, I'm okay.
Here's my statement on it.
Go ahead.
If you're gonna have a uniform, it should be like that.
Yeah.
If you're like, my point is like, if it's a uniform, it's uniform.
Yeah. Nobody stood out.
Top to bottom. That's right. If it's a uniform, it's like a police uniform or a military uniform. It's the same.
No one stood out.
If it's not uniform, then don't let it. Then just let it be not uniform. Let people be who they are.
It was good. Like it was like no stressors. Like the kids, like when they came in, they did stress about teenage stuff, but it wasn't about like how they look. It was more so, just about like.
Oh, I could definitely see that. Yeah.
It was beautiful. Sorry, that went long.
BTS now tries to touch the conscience of these students about their behavior trying to get expensive apparel, how they're sensitive towards trends and appearance, and how they whined and begged and asked their parents again and again to buy them these expensive clothes. Finally, the word Spinebreaker.
That's why it's Spinebreaker.
Yeah.
The phrase Spinebreaker comes from the Korean idiom 등골이 휘다, which literally means your back gets bent because you work so much. Usually, hard physical labor is done by bending your back.
Yeah.
Thus, if you work too much, your spine would permanently
Oh my gosh.
become bent. So, BTS is calling kids who beg their parents to buy them expensive clothes Spinebreakers. Not only the kids, but certain items themselves are now officially called Spinebreakers because parents need to work so hard to afford these items. So these so-called Spinebreaker kids don't care how hard their parents try to provide them food or necessities, but rather pester their parents by saying, but all of my friends have it too.
Yep. Our Spinebreakers are Jordans.
Those weren't mine. But
No, I'm saying in American culture, it's like a pair of Jordans, like sneaker wise. It's just like, well,
I just was like,
black culture for me. It's Jordans, and it's just like, are you serious? iPhones.
Yeah, phones. I can see phones.
It's a lot. Like, I don't understand why my 5th graders have like the latest iPhone. Why? Like, it makes no sense.
Yeah. When I got to here, my mom was like, "This is when you make money for yourself. Go get a paper route." That was really like this was the point where like my mom said, "And you're old enough to have a paper route.
Right.
Go make your own money, and then you can save it up. You can buy whatever you want."
And that was my mom as well.
Yeah.
Like, at the end of the day, you will have what you need. Whatever you want, that's nice that you want it.
My dad was a nice balance too, because my dad was like, he was so cute. He would like, I wouldn't ask, because after that I was like, oh, that's the deal. I have to go buy my own stuff.
Right.
And, like my dad, but so I wouldn't ask for stuff that often anymore. I mean, I'm sure I did, but like not in the same way. Like not in the way of like everybody else has it,
Right.
you know. And but he would notice what other kids were wearing,
And he would go.
and he would get it for me for like Christmas and stuff. My dad is, I'm very much like a daddy's girl. Like he would, like I wouldn't necessarily ask for it, but he would be like, oh, I noticed the other kids were wearing like this type of coat. And that would be what I'd get for Christmas, like, you know.
I learned to stop asking my mother for stuff because she was like, "We're
you
gonna go
weren't getting nothing from mom.
We're gonna go and find the person who's doing it for cheap, and we're gonna do that." And I'm like,
Your mother and my mother are
"Yeah,
similar,
like Cabbage Patch doll. You know, the Cabbage Patch doll is supposed to have the plastic face. No, I got the one with the cloth face, and I was like, this is not a Cabbage Patch doll, Mom. What are you talking about?"
I mean, the list goes on from
I know.
my mom. That's why I was like, you know what, you're right. I'll make my own money by my own stuff. Because she would be like, oh, you want such and such from like, I'm trying to like, probably like Abercrombie or something was big.
Yeah.
Even though that wasn't my style, I just wanted to fit in. And she'd be like, oh, you want something there? How about we go to Walmart and we'll just buy something that kind of looks like that.
That
I'm
was
like,
my
no,
mom.
you
I don't
get
want
it.
that. And
You
then
don't
when I
get
did
it.
get my job, I think I bumped my head because I felt as though I was grown then.
Totally.
Because I was able to buy my own stuff. So then it was like, now you can't dictate what I get.
Totally.
But why specifically padded jackets? It's because students in Korea wear school uniforms, but in the winter it gets too cold, so the most convenient body warmer would be a padded jacket. A few years ago, the padded jacket market wasn't that diverse, and particular
That's so
brands
funny.
were lead brands in the industry, such as the notorious North Face. These padded jackets
Look at him
have
flexing with his North
extremely high price.
Face.
The average price range would go from $500 to $1,000. They even had
US dollars or?
I don't know. North Face,
One.
nice North Face padded jackets are expensive though.
Yeah,
I didn't get a North Face
Me
jacket until I
either.
was in my 20s.
I didn't get one, period.
I have, do I still have it? I definitely had a North Face jacket in my 20s.
Yeah.
But I didn't get it till I was in my 20s.
Yeah,
Till I was a full grown up.
Yep, no. The only girls that I know that got it is if their boyfriends got it for them for like Christmas. But yeah, it was mostly a guy thing.
North Face padded jackets are very expensive.
And Tim's.
Yes, I had Tim's. Tim's I bought with my own money.
Yes.
I still have them.
It's no longer about particular brands and clothing. The spine breaking has evolved and expanded into products such as smartphones. So obviously, the luxurious clothing was a burden to parents that were not in the position to afford it, but nevertheless, their kids demanded them to buy it. So that's why the last lyric says, rather than filling your jacket with duck down, fill your head first with some common sense or conscience
Yes.
before it's too late.
I love Iron.
Oh my God. What is going on? What is going
I
on?
told you it's a silly video.
Okay. I see pearls.
Right or wrong. I love it.
The chorus is literally BTS being satirical about the kids that feel good and feel swag in their dirty clothes. It's dirty clothes because they earned it in a dirty way.
Wow.
Not by earning the money themselves, but by breaking their parents' backs. The expression that the dirty clothes will tighten up your heart means that eventually the kids will feel guilty and bad about wearing their clothes.
Okay, first of all, I like this RM flow. I don't want that to get lost. Did you
Okay.
listen to the flow or were you?
No, I was reading the words, so go
Okay,
back.
sorry. You know I'm an
Yeah.
RM, but it's a different flow than you normally.
Yeah.
And bad about wearing their clothes. In the second verse, BTS disses the kid haters. 배가 부르다 means that you have it easy and you have no worries of getting food in your mouth. Kids have their bellies full all due to their parents. Thus, they don't know how to do anything but to just feed on provided food. But they're being nosy and saying things that they wouldn't be able to say in front of the actual person. bluffing. You'll only be satisfied when the whole population of Korea dresses the same as you. This is satire against how kids think wearing the same things look cool. RM then goes on by saying, mind your own business, fashion, and life.
Yes. Oh, Jen.
Voice changes into a comical version. He is impersonating and mocking the kids by imitating what they would actually say, such as, but I want it so much, what should I do? Friends poorer than me even have it. If I don't want to be an outcast, I need to buy it. At this age, we're all supposed to be like this. RM says people might call him crazy or a no-no and criticize him for wearing expensive clothes, but he also points out that at least he's attractive, and most of all, he's not a spinebreaker that begs for his parents to buy him clothes. The last line is the killing point of the song. The real spinebreaker is you, who's still in the corner of your room at that age.
Wow.
Which means you can't do anything by yourself, so why don't you just shut up and respect your parents by helping them not suffer by paying your stupid padding jacket.
I forgot. Jin wasn't the outfits. Jin was the choreography, which we'll see when we watch the live.
Oh, hilarious. Danny looks so different with no hair. Wow, very different.